everyone. How are you? You ready for story time? All right, you can help me sing. Here we go. Welcome, welcome everyone. Now you're here, we'll have some fun. First we'll clap our hands to so. Then we'll bend and touch our toes. Welcome, welcome everyone. Now you're here, we'll have some fun. Our hands clap hello. Our hands clap hello. With all our friends it's story time. Our hands clap hello. Our feet stamp hello. Our feet stamp hello. With all our friends it's story time. Our feet stamp hello. And get on your glasses. Here are Grandma's spectacles and here's Grandma's hat. This is the way she folds her hands and puts them in her lap. Here are Grandpa's spectacles and here's Grandpa's hat. This is the way he folds his arms and sits like that. Right. We're going to do a clapping song. Come along and clap with me, clap with me, clap with me. Come along and clap with me on this happy morning. Come along and stamp with me, stamp with me, stamp with me. Come along and stamp with me on this happy morning. Come along and jump with me, jump with me, jump with me. Come along and jump with me on this happy morning. All right. Jumping now, we're going to put our hands on our head. My hands upon my head I place, on my shoulders, on my face. On my hips I place them so. Now my knees, now my toes. Now I raise them up so high, reach my fingers to the sky. Now I clap them, 1, 2, 3, then I fold them quietly. Are you ready? Here we go. Our story today is Calvin Can't Fly. It's by Jennifer Byrne, illustrated by Keith Bendis. Calvin is a starling. He was born under the eaves of an old barn with his 3 brothers, 4 sisters, and 67,432 cousins. Starlings have big families. Right from the beginning, Calvin was different. Right from the day all the little starlings tumbled out of their nest to discover the world, Charlie discovered worms, Alan discovered grass, Clement discovered dirt, Aubrey discovered water, and Calvin? Well, Calvin discovered a book. While all of Calvin's cousins chased beetles and bugs and ants, Calvin was learning to read letters and words and sentences. At night, his cousins dreamed of insect eating and garbage picking. Calvin dreamed of adventure stories, legends, and poetry. He even dreamed that someday he'd become a great writer himself. On June 1st, when all the little starlings lined up for flying lessons with their teacher, Mr. Wingstead, Calvin was nowhere to be seen. Where is that bird? Actually, Calvin was in the library. As the other little starlings were learning to swoop and hover and fly figure eights, Calvin buried his beak in books, and there his mind soared. Calvin read about pirates and cavemen, volcanoes and rainbows, whales and dinosaurs. Calvin especially loved dinosaurs. He learned how the planets circle the sun, what makes the wind blow, and amazing facts like how caterpillars grow up to become butterflies. His books took him to places wings never could, and his little heart fluttered with excitement. Calvin's cousins called him Nerdy Birdie, Geeky Beaky, Bookworm. And when you're a bird, being called a worm is a very bad thing. Calvin ruffled his feathers and mumbled, "Oh, how the wounding words of scorn do sting." Then he sadly waddled back to the library, the only place he was very happy. He stayed there until the first leaf turned orange and fell to the ground. The fall wind sent a chill through the old barn. Summer's nest flew to the floorboards, and it was time to head south. His cousins warned, "Calvin, you better learn to fly. In a couple of days, we've got to be out of here." Calvin said, "Oh, yes, migration. I read about that." His sister asked, "Calvin, can you fly?" Calvin had to admit that he couldn't. All the other starlings took off in a giant formation, but Calvin could only stand and watch. A big lonely tear rolled down his cheek. He was going to get left. Calvin turned and trudged back towards the old barn. He was so upset he didn't even notice his brothers and sisters and cousins coming back to get him. All of a sudden, they were tying up Calvin's middle with string and scraps of cloth they had found in the garbage. They grasped the other end with their beaks and off they flew, with Calvin, somewhat embarrassed, safely in tow. For days and days they flew. Calvin recognized the rivers and the mountains and the towns he had read about all summer. Excitedly, he pointed them out to his brothers and sisters and cousins, but the other little starlings just flapped their wings and headed south. Soon there came a day when the winds blew especially hard. Trees bent sideways, leaves scattered wildly, flying became harder and harder, and the air had an odd smell to it, the smell of danger. Calvin, remembering back to his favorite weather book, warned the rest of his family, a hurricane is coming! All his brothers and sisters and cousins asked, "What's a hurricane?" Calvin explained as quickly as his little beak could, "We need to get out of the path of a violent tropical weather system, which is storming up the coast at a tremendous speed and will not diminish until it encounters large stretches of landmass. Everybody make haste into that cave." They had no idea what Calvin was saying, but they had to admit it did sound real. So the flock made a loop-de-loop left and a dipsy-doodle right and dove into the cave. They did everything Calvin told them to. To their amazement, a great storm did blow across the land. It thundered across the mountains. It roared through the villages. It smashed and crashed, rumbled and raged, just as Calvin had predicted. The whole big starling family gathered together, watching in fear and awe. The storm finally ended. The sun came out in the sky, and the starlings came out of their cave. They were safe and sound, all because of Calvin. They celebrated with a great starling party in honor of Calvin. They ate big, juicy worms and yummy, crunchy beetles. They danced and sang songs about how Calvin had saved their lives. They toasted Calvin with acorn caps filled with fresh, clear mountain water. Calvin was so happy and felt so good deep down inside that he jumped and hopped and danced and flapped his wings and flapped his wings and flapped his wings. All the other starlings looked at him in amazement. "Calvin, you can fly!" they exclaimed. And Calvin, the happiest starling in the whole wide world, chirped, "Why, yes, I do believe I can." And then they all flew south with big, wide smiles on their little starling faces, especially Calvin. Oh, Calvin. Oh, and look. Now the other birds decide they need to read too. They're going to be smart birds. Okay, here we go. Little birds, I'm going to jump. Little birds, jump up and down. Little birds, don't make a sound. Little birds, tiptoe with me. Little birds, bend your knees. Little birds, peep, peep, peep. Little birds, sleep, sleep, sleep. Little birds, fly to the leaves. Little birds, sit down, please. Good job. Okay, we have one more song. And this one, oh, I forgot. We're going to fly one more time, this time to the moon. How could we forget this one? Inside a rocket. Ready? Just enough room. Here comes the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Blast off! All right. Now that we're back from the moon, put your hands up in the air. Let's see how we do. Put your hands up in the air. Put your hands down on your nose.
Put your hands up in the air. Put your hands down on your nose.
Up in the air.
Put your hands up in the air. Put your hands down in your lap.
And I think it's time for a nap.
Bow your head and take a nap.
Oh dear, it's a good day for a nap. Just right. You have a good day and stay warm. Bye-bye.